I'm honored to be speaking at the 6th Leaders in Islamabad Summit. Thank you, Asfar, for inviting me to share my thoughts at this august platform. Friends, colleagues, countrymen and women, like you, I have some troublesome thoughts hovering in my mind. Thoughts of despair, with rising inflation and contracting economy. Thoughts of anger, with the blame games played when all witnessed the collapse of our aspirations and we moved beyond the tipping point. I recently read in a local newspaper actually, that a court doctrine in a neighboring country states that capital punishment is for a crime that shocks the collective consciousness of society. There is no association or pun intended at all here. The only reason I quote this is today we should be in a state of shock of the collective consciousness of society. And I do not believe there is any punishment ordained on us. I believe it is a collective failure and requires a collective rethink. So let me put a little bit of perspective. Economy. Pakistan's GDP growth estimates for this fiscal year fallen to 0.29%. A contraction in industrial activity and concern of an economic default ahead, cutting the nation's forecast even further. There is flight of capital, financial and human. Food and agriculture. This slowdown has affected all sectors, including agriculture, stunting its growth, exacerbating food scarcity, and rising prices. In spite of our ability to grow crops in abundance, Pakistan imports wheat, which has surged. Human resources. There is a brain drain. And the female workforce participation stands at just 26%. Education. 22.8 million children aged 5 to 16 are out of schools. A resounding 44% of the children in this age group. Health and nutrition status. The consequence of malnutrition costs Pakistan US $7.6 billion, or 3% of its GDP annually. 51% of women and 16% of males, many of whom hold professional degrees. Technology, in spite of our position as the 4th largest freelancing base in the world, our rising inflation and depleting supply of technology will either slow down or cap the growing market. Climate change. Climate change disasters since last year alone have led to over 1,700 fatalities and the displacement of 8 million people. Pakistan, a land of immense opportunities, yet it has been in a quagmire for decades. Nonetheless, we have persevered against all odds. And that's what I want all of our esteemed visitors from abroad to have faith in. Due to our resilience and our fighting spirit that makes us who we are, truly Pakistani. In the next 36 hours, we will hear from subject matter experts in the fields of economics, technology, sociology, education, climate change, national security, food, agriculture, to identify a few. While each sector has a role to play and challenges to address, there is a larger conversation on the common threads that exist in every vertical of industry and society. They relate not to what aspect of the specific rethink, but the why and how, necessary to enable the achievable, tangible change. What I consider imperative is a rethink of our mindsets. We need creative thinking. We need to move from the rent-seeking to expanding horizons and product lines. We need to address the elite capture and envision collectively growing even more by growing the markets and economy for all. A rethink on the entrepreneurial mindset within. A rethink on our workforce and to counter the massive brain drain. A rethink on the larger societal role of our sectors. We are in uncertain times, standing at the crossroads of total economic, political, and social collapse, where history is holding its breath, wondering which way to go. We can choose to rise, to redefine ourselves, to rise, as the phoenix does from the ashes, or to succumb to the weight of our challenges, leaving the 220 million people in despair. One road leads to us losing all hope, and the other, less traveled road, starts from the place of hope. And this is what we want this gathering to be. As a Pakistani business leader, and as a Pakistani leader, I refuse to go down with the ship. I know that together, we can raise the sails, chart the course, and reach our destination. We have 220 million others with us on this ship. This requires an all hands on deck, all 220 million pairs of hands, heads, and hearts. The outcome of a successful rethink would be that the innate dissatisfaction we feel with current situation, leading not to despair but to hope, combined with ruthless self-determination and self-examination to lead to development, and frequent pursuit of agency, of which there is such lack of, for a better alternative reality. Given the country's context, can there be a more apt subject than the big rethink for all of us gathered here today? We are here to talk about the present and how we will change it, so when it becomes the past, it is a path and past worth us having. So let's start with us, the leaders, the change makers, and what can we do? We can inspire. We often become too focused on managing rather than leading. People and decisions are pivotal. We, as the private sector, need to be pushing boundaries and promoting collaboration. As successful companies become role models, others follow suit, creating a spillover effect that makes innovation the norm. This culture attracts investments, creates jobs, and fuels economic growth. This spillover reaches the tech-reliant sectors, boosting productivity and competitiveness. So imagine all that we can do with what we do have in our hands, which is if we rethink the way we lead in whatever we do. Research institutions, government and private sector entities, and farmers must unite their efforts. Precision agriculture, smart irrigation systems, crop diversification, and will help to safeguard our environment. Moving to human capital, creating organizations that become best places to work through focus on skill and resource development, retraining talent to counter the brain drain. Just think about it from the perspective of what is happening right now. Your middle management, agar kisi ki 7 lakh रुपए की तनख्वाह है, वो $2,000 भी नहीं है अब. What are we fighting against? Look at what we have to deal with from what is happening from within where we operate from. We have to be doing more to be able to not only retain the talent that we have, but inspire them to be becoming part of the solution by empowering them, by giving them the space and the hope that yes, together we will be able to turn this around. I would have liked to also, I see I don't have much time left. Is that what the time is? I was going to speak about contribution of business in society for successful, sustainable business. This goes beyond the obvious value creation in goods and services, labor, wages, and tax. The value flows from corporations to households through 8 different pathways, thus creating multiple ripples in the economy and society. Conscientious creation of positive societal narratives, media ki abhi baat ki Asfar ne, and communication by advertisers, all of us sitting here, something we are actively working on even through forums like PASS. This is the first step to be inspiring behavior change in society, where positive societal narratives and purpose-led communications by advertisers can be playing its role. I would like to touch upon what, of course, is very near and dear to my heart, from transformational culture to the big rethink, what we spoke about human capital and diversity. What of our work and social cultures? Are we creating spaces to foster diversity? Do we need a rethink on inclusion? As we know, smart economics to ensure gender equality. It's not just a matter of justice or a good to have item on your corporate communication agenda. It is really a strategic economic imperative. So, with the right policies in place, with the thinker and leaders like all of you in place, and our hearts in the right place, and the ability to at least talk about, even if we do not have the agency to implement these policies and planning and long-term planning, as Asfar spoke about. So the next 2 years to 5 years will be challenging, but as leaders, we are hardwired to deal with challenges. We see the big picture, and we are able to clear the fog, to charter through the unknown. We can't isolate ourselves from what's happening around us. This isn't someone else's problem. We need to work towards this together. We need to ensure that our success benefits everyone and makes a much wider impact. And through deliberate cultivation of excellence, we can initiate a transformative cascade to shape our future. I want to end my talk with a quote from another inspiring leader, Jack Ma, who said, "The world will not remember what you said, but it will certainly not forget what you have done." So my dear Pakistanis and friends of Pakistan, this is indeed the time to rethink our actions. It's not the time for talk. but it is the time for the rethink and what comes out of our rethink. Thank you very much. Look forward to hearing from all the experts in the fields about all the various segments that I have tried to highlight in my speech. Thank you very much.